Welcome to Snap Pulse. Today we're going to prepare you for using Snap Pulse to support you in meeting your development and leadership goals. By the end of this presentation, you'll understand how to use Snap Pulse easily and successfully to support you in meeting your professional development goals. We'll explain what Snap Pulse is, and we'll show you how it will help you with your leadership development. We'll go into the tool itself to show you how to set it up, and we'll give you some useful guidelines to prepare for using Snap Pulse. To get a better understanding of how to use Snap Pulse to support your development, let's start with the scenario. Imagine that you just presented on the 3-year strategy for your organization, and you're not sure if you met the mark. How would you prefer to follow up to see how your presentation was received? Obviously, you'd like feedback. You want to know, how did you do? What worked? What could have been done differently? Let's take a closer look at what we mean here by feedback. Feedback is information you receive in response to actions or behaviors you've taken or that you've demonstrated to others. Feedback doesn't have to be anything more than that. It's not a scorecard that says that you're a good or bad person. It's simply information you can use, or if not, constructively to help you get from point A to point B along your development path or to meet your goals. That's why you ask for feedback. High-quality feedback from others will support you in your learning, motivation, performance, and will help you meet your goals faster. In addition, asking for feedback not only helps you with your development, but it also builds your team's trust in you. Asking for feedback from your team and others demonstrates that you are responsive to your team and your organization, that you are committed to its goals, and that you are accountable for your own involvement. Sometimes, however, feedback can feel like something that's getting done to us. When you get feedback, you are looking for useful information. Unfortunately, often in our work and other social interactions, our intention in doing something or demonstrating a behavior does not match how our others perceive and receive those actions. You intend one impact, it has another. So, for a given skill or habit that you are developing, or for a goal you are trying to meet, the feedback you get from others around you will be less about how well you are doing and more about how your behavior impacts them. The good news is that you can manage the message by seeking feedback rather than waiting for it. How do you ask for feedback that provides you with useful insight into how to refine your habits to align more closely with your intention and intended outcomes? Specify what you want feedback on, your recent behavior or actions, and request what the impact or impression your behavior or activity made. That's how you ask for feedback. That's where the Snap Pulse comes in. Snap Pulse will support you in requesting effective feedback and ensure that you get quality feedback you can work with. Snap Pulse is an online feedback tool designed to help you generate useful, timely, and ongoing feedback from your team and colleagues on topics that you choose. Use Snap Pulse to set your goals and set up pulses. Pulses are timed requests that Snap Pulse sends out to your colleagues to prompt them for the specific kinds of feedback you're looking for to keep you on track with your leadership development goals. While you likely want to develop in multiple areas, use Snap Pulse to accelerate your development in at least one leadership area that is especially important to you and your team. Let's take a look at what you need to do to get started. You'll need to clarify what you need and want feedback on. Pick something that you have the passion and energy for, and that you think will positively impact the morale and motivation of your team. Consider potential leadership areas to work on. Think about ways in which you want to enhance your effectiveness as a leader. Reflect on your current leadership challenges and what you might need to do better or differently to deal with these challenges. Once you are in Snap Pulse, you also might want to take a look in the Snap Pulse Goal Wizard for examples of leadership habits and skills that managers often work on to improve their effectiveness. Share your ideas about leadership areas to work on with others, but be open to their input. Meet with your line manager to discuss the leadership area you should work on. You want your manager aware of the goals you are trying to meet, and they can provide you with the appropriate support. You might also ask for input and support from a peer accountability partner, your coach, or a mentor. After getting input from others, it's time to work on creating your specific goal. Make sure it's motivating for you. Begin crafting your goal by determining if you want to create a new habit or develop a new skill. This will affect how you write out your goal and later when you enter it into SnapPulse. Choose a habit goal if you want to change a specific behavior in a way that others notice. With a habit goal, you will ask your colleagues to specify when and where they observe you demonstrating your intended new behavior. Set a skill goal if you want to improve a skill needed to better achieve important results. With a skill goal, you will ask your colleagues to rate how well they think you are displaying that skill. Write your goal down after clarifying it. Then, you will determine who will observe you in working towards this goal. If your overall goal is related to how to improve your team's targets, your colleagues should definitely be all of your direct reports. Depending on your goal, you might want to include other colleagues who can provide you with relevant feedback. Be sure to get their names and email addresses together so that you have them ready when you enter your goal into SnapPulse. Let's work through an example together. Let's say you have a leadership challenge and you've discussed it with your line manager. Specifically, that team members aren't communicating with each other effectively. You both agree that your team needs to improve how it communicates information and shares ideas. An example of your team goal might be to increase communication by 15% on your annual employee engagement survey. Here, communication is a team goal because team communication needs improvement and has been linked to better business unit productivity in particular. But you know that team communication also has a positive effect on your other company goals, including new product development, customer satisfaction, and safety and compliance. Now, let's move on to your next step, determining the type of goal you will be working on to achieve this outcome, habit or skill-based. So here are some goals to draw from to improve team communication. Here's how that might translate into a very specific habit or skill goal. A habit goal might be, at weekly meetings, I listen to others before stating my point of view. This goal describes a habit aimed at changing how others see you in specific times and places. This next goal is part of what would make up a skill goal. In this example, I use my team's ideas so that I make higher quality decisions. Skill goals are aimed at improving a skill that requires you to change several different but related behaviors. So, start thinking about what goal you want to set in terms of leader habits and/or skills to help your team improve its targets so that they contribute to improved organizational outcomes. The SnapPulse Goal Wizard will help you create your I statement for your goal, making it measurable and specific. Let's take a closer look at how to write a clear skill goal. Let's say that to improve team communication, your skill goal is, I use my team's ideas so that I make higher quality decisions and improve team engagement. Is it clear? Well, if you look closely, it states two different outcomes: higher quality decisions and improved team engagement. For a goal statement, you want one outcome. And for the purposes of SnapPulse, you need to choose one in order to get focused feedback from your colleagues. Here's an improvement. I use my team's ideas so that I make higher quality decisions. It states a single competency statement in relation to a single outcome. That will help your colleagues in providing you with that accurate and focused feedback. Here's how that skill goal might translate into one of its habit goals. Become a better listener. Let's clarify that. Become a better listener of whom? When are you listening? What are you listening for? What does better look like? Here's an improvement, a clearly written habit goal. In weekly meetings, I listen to others before stating my point of view. In this goal statement, weekly meetings identifies the time and place, when you plan to demonstrate this habit. The second part of the statement, I listen to others before stating my point of view, is directly observable by others. A habit goal is about changing how you do something that others can observe, which is why you specify the time and place where you will act differently. Once you receive your email invitation to SnapPulse, you will be able to log in and create your first goal. To set your goal in SnapPulse, log into SnapPulse and then click on the New Goal button on the welcome page. This brings you to the New Goal page. If you see the Hide Goal Wizard button when you land on the New Goal page, you're set. You don't need to do anything. If you do not want to use the Goal Wizard to create your goal statement, click the Hide Goal Wizard button. We recommend using the Goal Wizard when creating a new goal. With the Goal Wizard up, you can start entering the details of your goal into SnapPulse. In the Goal Name field, enter the name of your goal, the goal you discussed or will discuss with your line manager. After you have set up the name of your goal, select whether your goal is habit or skill-based. Choose to set up a habit goal if you want to change how others see or perceive your behavior. With a habit goal, you will be asking your colleagues to specify when and where they observe you demonstrating your intended new behavior. Set a skill goal if you want to improve a skill that results in a specific outcome. With a skill goal, you will be asking your colleagues to rate how well they think you are meeting that outcome. If you choose a habit goal, select the area of improvement for which you want to get feedback. I am going to select Ask Staff Members how I can support their work engagement. Now select the measurable action for your goal. I would like for my colleagues to observe me in staff meetings. The Goal Wizard will display the goal statement that you created. You can edit your goal statement as needed to make sure it is clear. In my organization, we use the word team instead of staff. If you like your goal statement, click Continue. Unhappy with what you have? Use the Restart button if you need to start over. Let's restart and create a skill goal. Select Skill Goal, then click Next. Select the area of improvement for which you want to get feedback. I would like to improve the way I unite and engage my team to pursue common goals. Now select the measurable action for your goal. Improving this skill will help me increase team effectiveness. Click Next. You may edit your completed goal statement as needed to make sure it is clear. If you like your goal statement, click Continue. Since I am happy with my goal statement here, I'll click Continue. This is an example of what your colleagues will see. Compared to the best leader they can think of, your colleagues will be asked to give feedback on your goal statement on a scale from 1 to 5. Let's set up the open-ended questions in Colleagues for a new goal. The new goal page displays the number of pulses that will be sent based on the pulse engagement. For this example pulse engagement, your colleagues will receive 3 pulses. For each pulse sent to your colleagues, they will be asked to provide feedback on your goal statement, specifically on what you should start, stop, or continue doing to improve on in meeting your goal. For each of these pulses, select one open-ended question that you want your colleagues to respond with feedback. Your next step is to add your colleagues to request feedback. Make sure you have the names and emails for your colleagues ready before you complete this step. You will need to enter at least the minimum number of colleagues set for your engagement. This pulse engagement example is set up for a minimum of 5, maximum of 15 colleagues to set up for requesting feedback. All of your colleagues should be able to observe your behavior, interested in your effectiveness, and willing to be direct, honest, and specific. Click on appropriate fields to enter your colleagues' names and their email addresses. The type of goal you set will determine if you invite direct report, line manager, or peer colleagues. Do you have any more names? Use the Add Colleague button if you want to add additional colleagues. To remove a colleague, click on the red X next to their email. SnapPulse will send your colleagues the first Pulse survey on the Pulse number 1 start date. Dates for the pulses are set by the Pulse engagement. After entering your goal, your colleagues, and your open-ended questions, click the Save Goal button. The Save Goal button will register your goal and put the survey process into action. You will be brought to the Goal Details page for the goal you just entered into SnapPulse. What happens next? Well, you will be working towards your goal, practicing new habits or skills. Your team members will receive emails from SnapPulse, the pulses, requesting feedback on what they observe in your work. People will have a set period of time, which could be days or weeks, to respond to the pulses. That period of time is determined by your company. At least 3 people have to respond before you will be able to view your results. Once you are able to start reviewing your results in SnapPulse, let's talk about what happens when you receive feedback. Often, feedback can be surprising. So, after you first read your feedback, take a step back and remember that what you're getting is actually very useful information. It's neither right nor wrong.
but rather the effect or impact of your behavior, which may be different from your intention. Use this information strategically. Consider what you need to do differently to bring you closer to your intended outcome. Processing feedback is a skill. Here are some guidelines to move constructively through processing your feedback. Check yourself from becoming defensive or justifying your position. Your understanding of the feedback does not equal agreement of the feedback. Simply own it. Consider what the feedback might be triggering in you. Don't reject the feedback because of who it might be coming from. People's perceptions impact how they react to you. Focus on the message. Is the feedback useful? Consider that modifying your behavior based on the feedback and ultimately changing that person's perception of you can make you more successful in your career. If you need to, take 1 to 2 days or more to reflect on the feedback. If your feedback indicates that you need to do something differently, consider seeking the guidance of an expert. Or do some research. Read what you need to learn. Get tips from someone who does it well. If your feedback indicates that your new behaviors aren't having the desired impact, talk to an accountability partner. Reach out to your coach or seek out more in-depth face-to-face feedback from a mentor or someone you trust. Let's take a look at how to access feedback results in SnapPulse. At the deadline set for receiving colleague feedback, a pulse will close, and SnapPulse will send you an email inviting you to check out your feedback results. To see your results, start by logging into SnapPulse and click on your goal to go to the goal detail page and to bring up your feedback results. After each pulse is closed for feedback, you'll be able to review your feedback results. SnapPulse will only show results after a minimum of 3 of your colleagues have responded. After more than one pulse is completed and has closed, SnapPulse will generate a graph plotting your average score for each of the completed pulses. You can track your progress in more detail through the engagement by rolling over the points on the graph to compare data. Here on the goal details screen, you can see the pulse question and the feedback received for each pulse. Your colleagues gave you a rating between 1 and 5 based on how you compare to the best leader they can think of in regards to your goal. The bar graph will show you the total number of colleagues that gave you a rating of negative, neutral, or positive. Responses to the open-ended question you selected, asking what to stop, start, or continue doing, will show here. Remember, feedback is rarely easy to receive. Take a breath, take a day if you need to, and then reflect on how and why your intentions may not match your impact so that you can make constructive adjustments. In reviewing your feedback, you may have trouble understanding your respondent's message or its clarity. If the feedback isn't clear, you can set up a follow-up micro-pulse to get closer to the intent of the feedback. A micro-feedback pulse may also be used for other feedback not related to your development goal. Use micro-feedback to help you meet your leadership development goals. Specifically, you can use the micro-pulsing feature to pulse peers, superiors, or special project team members on what they are observing with regard to the goal you set in SnapPulse, or use it for feedback on another goal you may be working on. For instance, you might use microfeedback after specific events during which you had the opportunity to visibly demonstrate that habit or skill you are developing, perhaps directly after speeches you gave, meetings you ran, difficult conversations you recently had with many team members. Depending on your goal, your pace of work, and the availability of those around you to provide feedback, some of you will likely use the microfeedback pulse function more than others. To set up a microfeedback pulse in SnapPulse, click the New Microfeedback button on the Welcome page. To go to the new microfeedback page to set up your survey, in the Name field, enter the name of your survey. Make it descriptive so that it's easier for you to reference it later if you need to. In the Feedback Dates section, set the date range during which you'd like people to provide you with feedback. Click on the Start Date field to bring up a calendar from which you can select a start date that works for you. Then set the end date for your survey. We recommend having the pulse open for 7 to 10 days. In the Question field, enter the open-ended question you'd like to send to your colleagues for their feedback. Click Add Question if you want to include more questions in your survey. For microfeedback, you probably shouldn't ask more than 3 questions. You can invite colleagues to respond to your microfeedback pulse in one of 2 ways. via a system-generated email from SnapPulse or a system-generated link that you share using your preferred method. Use the Add Colleague button to have SnapPulse to send them a system-generated email. Simply enter their name and email in the appropriate fields. You can add up to 15 colleagues here. For this microfeedback pulse, I also want to share a link to my colleagues that they can click on to submit feedback. SnapPulse creates a unique link for this microfeedback pulse that I can copy and share. Click the Save button and SnapPulse will create the link to share. To share the survey link, I would click on the link SnapPulse created to copy it to my clipboard and paste it into my email. Your colleagues can then respond to your survey by clicking on the link you sent them. If you need to edit your microfeedback pulse, go back to the microfeedback details. Here, you can use the Edit button to go back and edit your survey question, feedback dates, and colleagues. You will have the ability to edit your microfeedback pulse until the first feedback is received by SnapPulse from your colleagues. After you receive your feedback, be sure to thank your feedback providers with a follow-up email. Your growth depends on your ability to pull value from criticism. Your colleagues may not be skilled at providing feedback, but their insight, which they put aside time to provide to you, will be valuable to you in meeting your leadership development goals.